Hello. How is the practicing going? Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Tryon. Welcome to class 2 of Brush Lettering Basics. Last week, we covered our first strokes, lots of entry and exit strokes. Not exactly the sexiest of brush lettering classes, the beginner classes, getting you going with those first strokes. But I hope you were able to put lots of those strokes in your books and get practicing. Please let me know if you practiced this week. I'd love to hear about it. Or even better, see some filled lined pages like this. We can show you. I want to be seeing lots of downstrokes, lots of transition strokes, you guys. This is what's going to help build the muscle memory. Lots of loops, trying it with both sizes of pens, lots of O's. Tonight we are going to get into doing some fun things. Letters are coming up tonight. We do want to practice doing the alphabet, because as soon as you can get to the letters, the sooner you can get to writing words, the sooner you can get to doing some cool things. Like this, do what makes you happy more often. This, again, is just one of my practice books. None of these have ever gone anywhere. They're just in a blank book to just practice different letters. And look, this is from 2015, 2016. That's how long I've been practicing. And this was with a real calligraphy pen. And it's just anything and everything can go in some of these notebooks. We put some in the kit. Obviously, it must have been around Christmas time. You'll never look back and be glad you weren't tired for work. I used to say that a lot in my party days. This is what you guys are doing right now. Try new things. I think a lot about ink. Yeah, this is, just nothing fancy here, nothing great, just a book to practice. A good day starts with coffee and you. Yeah. And we're practicing doodling. I love doing these sort of doodle sketches. This is one I did for my old cameraman when I was at Global. And that's his wife and his dog. This is what I was watching at the time, Making a Murderer. And so I'd encourage you to grab just a blank book, or if you got the kit, you've got a couple little blank books that we gave you in your kit. And if your kids say something funny, or your grandkids, or you have a funny quote, or lyrics of songs are great for practicing, because sometimes you're like, I don't know what to write. What do I write? If you got a earworm going, like a song that you're singing all the time, like I'm currently singing This Ain't Texas, Ain't No Hold'em. It's everywhere. I'm singing it. Lay your cards down, 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 down. My son's behind the camera. He's like, no, stop, please. But yeah, we could be writing This Ain't Texas. Lay your cards down. Anything that sort of just allows you to have some words that are more prominent in the sentence and some words that are smaller, like, and or the. Those don't need to be prominent words. And so you'll get sort of used to building paragraphs in a way that highlight, like, for example, if we're looking at this, do more of is small. What makes you is small. Happy more often, you know what I mean? And then we can use the side of our marker, and we'll get into that when we're talking about flourishes. We can use the side of our pens to create some of these vines and lots of dots and lines and things like that. But yeah, song lyrics are a great way to do it. In your emails, you got a link to some freebies, and this is an extra practice page that you can download if you like. So if you didn't get the kit, you still have some lined paper to practice on. You can print this off on your home printer. And something that I did was I printed off a practice page and I laminated it. And if you have a laminator, lots of crafty people have laminators. You could go ahead and be practicing your loops and things like that just on one page and then wiping it right off. because the laminated sheets are great for, just wiping it right off. Now, I shouldn't have done that right on my finger, but oh well. You get what I'm saying. So that's just an idea for anyone who doesn't have the kit and all of the nice notebooks and things like that. You can go online. I gave you the link to our website, homemade.ca, and the practice pages are all linked up there, along with some free backgrounds that you could print out on your home printer that will allow you to start creating some projects of your own. Of course, if you've got the kit, you can still download those too. Okay, so if we're looking at the schedule, you'll notice I've got my handy real close-up camera right beside me. Normally we keep these cameras hidden so that you don't have to see them, but because we need to get so close up to see the writing, I've got it nice and close by. So tonight we are again doing stroke practice, and by stroke practice, I mean we're going to be doing that all the time. We're always practicing our strokes and building that muscle memory, but we're going to do that with letters tonight. And I'd encourage you, if you to take one page and do one page per letter. And I'm going to show you, you can see that's what I've done here. And I've written out the letters in a bunch of different ways. And you can kind of start to develop your own style. Look at that from the, whatever. I'm always covered in ink or thread. Anyway. So you're going to start to develop your own style based on what you kind of think looks good, whether you're writing or printing. And then I'd encourage you, once you have one that you like, if you've got the kit, you can take out some tracing paper and keep practicing that style. If you hit the jackpot one time and write out a letter and you're like, oh, I love the way I did that one. I wish I could do them all like that. That's when you bring your tracing paper over and you choose the one that you like the most and you build that muscle memory and you keep practicing that letter over and over and over again, so that your muscle memory builds and you're able to kind of easily replicate that specific letter. So let's go through a few of the letters. Now, I don't think I should really probably go through all 26 letters, but I'm going to show you them all. And then what we'll do is we'll go through at the end of, I have all the letters down here. But at the end, we'll go through what I think is probably even more useful. And those are the groups of letters. And you'll notice that there's ascenders, and there are descenders, and then there are letters that ride the lines. And I think it would be great if we practiced these for the most part, because once you start to get the hang of descending and ascending, going up or going down, that's when your letter, or when you're hugging the line, that's when any letter really starts to take shape. Versus just practicing the same letter over and over and over and over again. It's not necessary that your letters always look the same. It's more necessary that you're able to come in and out and up and down no matter what the letter is. So just doing P 1,000 times, yeah, that's good if you want to write that same P the same way every time. Or you can get good at whatever letter, always going up, always coming down. And so whatever you're writing, it's going to look great. So we're going to go through a few letters, and then we're going to group things off by ascenders. So those are letters like the B, the D, the H, the K. See, they kind of, I'll show you on our side one here. Camera 4, yeah. They kind of go way up, like B, it comes up to the top, it ascends, and it comes back down. And then we've got like the entry and the exit stroke and the thickening the downstroke and thickening the downstroke again. So that's what we're going to practice. And then our project tonight is going to be the banner. So this is really cute. You can make it whatever word that you want. Because we're practicing letters tonight, this is a great way to, because we're going to do one letter per banner, or per, I guess they're still called banners, but per triangle. I'm going to do Happy Easter because that's the closest holiday, and I don't have a Happy Easter banner, but you could do welcome or whatever you want. Maybe it's somebody's birthday coming up, or you can save it. But that's the project tonight. Okay, let's, if you have any questions, please just put them in the comments and I'll get back to them. But because lots of people watch this on the replay and may watch it as a class as they're practicing, I'm trying to just continue going in the hopes that you will stop and pause the video as you need to when you're watching it on the replay, and then pick it up where you need to again. All right, so if I'm starting with my letters here, I'm just going to get right in. You can see with the A's, there's all kinds of different ways that you could do it. And I've written down some that I think are kind of popular, that look good. But again, you will develop your style too. So I don't necessarily think you have to just continue copying someone else's A. But what I want you to do when you're thinking about any capital letter is, again, think about the entrance into that letter. You always have some kind of entry stroke. So in this case, we're kind of going up. We're ascending to the top off of the page, nice and thin because we're going upwards. Then we're going to thicken the downstroke and an exit stroke. And then we've got a side stroke that stops right there. All right, we can show you right close up on the side here. So entry stroke, nice and thin, down, thickens, and then that exit stroke comes out. You see, I'm taking my pen off the page in between each stroke. Now, if we were doing a capital A that just looked like a smaller A, we're still entering almost like a circle, up, thin, thickening that downstroke, coming out of it. And now I don't have to go all the way around and finish over here like I would with an O, because the side of my A is going to cover, and then always with the exit stroke. When you're printing, like I did here, I'm going up, so that's skinny. It's kind of a rounded top, and thickening, and down. And sometimes it's nice when you're printing to have a bit of fun with where you place the line. It could be way up high, which kind of looks cool, different, or it could be way down low. But what I'd suggest is if you're doing a word like, let's say the word R, A-R-E, all of those letters have somewhere where it comes down. Try to match up where those lines go. See, that's sort of in line. And then the E can be in line there. And now everything here sort of is even right across. See what I mean? So think about that when you're having fun and playing with where the line placement is. All right, on a lowercase letter with the A, again, we're only using half of the line. So we're only hitting the midline, which is right about there. So we're going to keep it under that midline. So here, I've got a couple different examples. First, no entry stroke. So it's just going, starting with this half circle and thickening the downstroke on the side, coming up thin, lifting my pen off the page and going down and letting my downstroke cover where the two meet so you don't see that. And then that exit stroke to leave the A. Now, if you're doing it a little more fancy, a little more cursive, you can start with an entry stroke off the page, then do that A, but make sure you're covering that end with your stroke, like right here, and that you're covering this end with that stroke there. So you've got an entry and an exit. And then if you're printing, like not cursive, again, just thickening that side stroke and having the side cover where it's joined. So starting thin, thickening on the side and transitioning out, just like we did with last week with the strokes. Or you could do it more like a type. like a computer font. Thicken that downstroke. See how I'm coming off the page to finish, and then thin and thick and thin. As long as you're remembering to continue to thicken the downstroke, you're going to be able to start drawing your letters. So the B, for example, lots of different ways to write a B. The entry stroke here is starting at the top. So I'm entry stroke, downstroke off the page. And I'm not starting the B right up here the way you would if you were printing. I'm actually starting the top hump of the B at the midway point. So I get a bit of that thin line coming up and out of that stroke. See there? So if you start an R, a B, anything, a P at the midway point and bring it up, you're going to get much more, it's going to have more variation with your thin stroke versus here and then starting it here. See what I mean? That looks much more like the way we would regularly write a B. So if you have a nice thin stroke, thin, thick, and then off the page, and then kind of coming right up and out with that thin stroke. And what's also fun is to have a little play with the humps being different sizes. I find this one looks better because, and a little more asymmetrical, because in grade school you were taught B, and then the big hump at the bottom would be where it was larger. But here you could have a bit of fun with it and make the top of the B larger and the bottom of the B smaller. And it kind of gives it, if you're writing the word B, let's say, like be mine or whatever. So you can have a bit of fun with like inversing what would normally be seen in regular writing. If you were printing a B without a downstroke or without an entry stroke, remember how we practiced in our downstroke arcing your line just a bit. Just a bit. It bows a little left, starts a little more right and ends a little more right, but bows a little left rather than just straight down. That just gives your letter a little bit more movement. And then again, I'm starting about the 3/4 of the way down and coming up with that thin stroke for a printed letter B. Again, you could have a little bit of fun with how big you make the humps. One of my favorite letters to write in cursive is a lowercase letter B, and that's because, or any of these ascender letters, because you get to have a bit of fun with the entry stroke when you've got an ascender like this. You can kind of come up on an arch thin and then make that stroke down off the page, up. And you could even come down like, oh, I made an H, whoops. But with the B, down, and then exit stroke. You could exit stroke in a more traditional, just down out the bottom like that too. Think about what letter's coming next when you decide what exit stroke you make. Because if I was coming out and doing an R, the exiting at the top would look great, because if I was saying brush, like B, R, you could immediately go into. And then again, with that ascender letter, as long as we're varying the thick and the thin on the downstroke, you're going to be able to draw letters. You already know how to draw these shapes because we've been writing, since we were little. We know how to write a B. We know how to write an H. It's just putting a little more pressure on the downstroke and a little less pressure on the upstroke that's going to allow you to transform your writing. All right, let's move on to, let's do C next. I kind of find C a little boring and kind of a little hard. So it's hard to get a really good flourish on a C, because if you do, Sometimes it looks like a letter E, because if you kind of go in with an entry stroke, you either have to catch it here on the way down, which is fine, or if you're going to make it take the hoop, you have to be careful that it doesn't look like a letter E. See what I mean? So oftentimes people will flourish at the beginning and go down with a C like that, have a little loop at the beginning. So you can practice how you think sort of a cursive looking C looks, how it looks nice for you. You could do a little flourish on the beginning with a little dot in, and then cover the entryway. And then, of course, a lowercase c, you have your entry stroke off the page, thicken that down stroke, exit stroke. And then if it was just printing, you're just kind of coming up, thickening, and coming out of it thin. D, lots of ways to do D. Similar to the B, where you can have some fun with the flourish here. If you're finishing a word, lots of words end in D. So if we were doing something like hand, for example. So let's start well, first, let's just practice the D before we get to writing. An uppercase D, the way you traditionally should write it in cursive, kind of has this kind of a shape. But you can pick if you want an entry stroke, if you want to start with an entry. But when you're doing the hump, like the D like this, don't start at the top. You always want to start, again, at the midway point and come up with the tiny stroke and down. And you can kind of come up and out, or you could come out at the bottom, starting midway. Coming up through this way, I find looks better than kind of coming out the bottom of a D. A printed letter D, again, starting at the 3/4 mark. And then the lowercase d is lots of fun. You can practice doing this, starting with your entry stroke, looping around, thickening off the page, and then doing the circle, thickening and coming up, and exit stroke. And soon you'll kind of get to where it's a little more flowy. If you don't like it coming from the front like that, I would only use this. Well, you can plan out when you use this. Maybe you've got a bunch of small letters like this that ride the line in front of it. And so you've got lots of room to flourish here. If it's the beginning of a word, maybe you would just want to have a loop. So then you're going to start with the D kind of coming down and then looping up. But you see, in between the two strokes, like right there, my hand's coming off the page. My pen's coming off. I'm thickening the downstroke. I'm stopping. And then I'm starting and covering up that middle, that messy middle with the downstroke. Same with doing if you were printing a D up where there's no exit and entry stroke, you're making that half circle. I'm going to cover up that join with my downstroke. E is a letter that rides the line. And it's fairly easy to do. You can either come in with an entry stroke and go around and have the E sort of sitting up like it's sort of half printing, half writing, or you can just loop it. I like it this way. F is another one that's fun to practice because there's all kinds of different ways you can write it. The uppercase F is tough. I tend to do it like this one because this, it sort of doesn't look much like printing. I find the F, when it's too fancy like this, I don't really know what it Okay, I would still want it to be easy to read. So if I was doing like to or from. Sometimes with F, because I really love the lowercase f, I just use lowercase, even if it calls for a capital. Because when you're brush lettering, you don't always have to adhere to all those rules. And so this is a descender, a letter that's going to fall below the line. So we've got our entry stroke. We're looping up, thickening, coming down, getting thin again. Or you could have a bit of fun with it and finish. So here it's finishing backwards. So we're going to have to like either do a new entry stroke, like if we were doing friend or something like that here. Here it would connect right away. So we can go up same way, down, but take over to the R. You notice when I'm writing like this, I'm stopping and taking my pen off the page in between each letter and in between each stroke. That's because I need to cover up those messy middles and I need to reposition my hand. If I were to try to do this all in one F, I mean, I guess I could, but it's much harder to get a good, like, it's not like cursive where you're, you know what I mean? Where your pen never lifts the page. It does not look as good. No. So, and printing an F, nice and thin. Again, this is a place where you can have fun with where you put the crossbar. It can be lower, can be higher. But again, if you're going to do a low crossbar, do your letters that ride the lines all the same height as the crossbar. See what I mean? I wrote fried because I spelled friend wrong. But you see what I mean? That's going to be pleasing to the eye because then the D can be tall, the F can be tall, and then all of these letters line up with that crossbar. So have a bit of fun when you're practicing Fs on where your crossbar should be. G is another fun one because it has an automatic flourish built in. It's a descender again. So your lowercase g, this is what a lowercase g in middle school was supposed to look like with cursive. But I prefer doing capital G's, you know, so it's sort of a mix between printing and cursive. So you can kind of come in with a stroke, or you can make it look like a lowercase g. And you could even put the line across there. The printing G is fairly standard, fairly straightforward at this point. It's just that half circle coming up and a thin line because it's going sideways. The lowercase g, again, you can have fun with that loop, can be big, can be small. You want that entry stroke. Again, the circle down, and it can be big, it can be, you know, small, it can finish, it can be open. So when you're practicing your G's, it can be skinny and come right up into another letter. Think about what kind of movement you want. I like big ones that kind of are fun like this and have lots of movement. Again, if you're just printing a G, half circle, and then covering up that middle point and ending thin. It's all about the pressure, remember? H is another one of those ascenders. Uppercase H's, you know, they're pretty straightforward. You can have a bit of fun with the flourish here. You can make it have a ripple. It can go straight across. Again, just like the B and the D, you could decide you want your entry stroke to come from the bottom and up, from the middle and up, from the bottom and up. J is another one because you've got that flourish possibility that you can start it with an entry stroke if you want, come down and around if you want, or don't start with an entry stroke, but still come down and around. If you were doing Christmas things. Now, here, if I was writing jingle, think about what you've already done here and maybe try to mimic it, or do one just slightly larger than that, but the same kind of shape. See how I came off the page there so I could get my placement again. As soon as you've got a place to rest, like in the thick stroke here, take it. Lots of places to rest. So you can have fun with the flourishes with J's. Printing a J, pretty standard. It's just about the pressure. Now, K's and R's, anything that has a little stick letter on the way down, these I find difficult. And I find it helps if you give them a little exit stroke. So if you have your entry stroke, you can come up and around like this, or go in straight like that. So you can come up and around and down, or up and down. And you're going to come down thin, and you're going out thin too, because you're going straight at this is considered a cross stroke, not necessarily a down stroke. If you were to just go down straight, it just doesn't look that great. It's just kind of boring. You can come in, come down. If you give it a little one of these exit strokes, it's a little more interesting. So I find the same with R's, and we'll get to it. If you're going down, again, starting at the 3/4 of the way mark to do that hump. If I was to just go down, especially don't come down like that. Oy. If you were to come down, start at the 3/4 mark, make your hump, and then start from down here and just give it an exit stroke. Much more interesting looking than that poor guy. Same with the K. So coming down, down, and you can go down kind of far. And then as long as you're doing that extra, like exit stroke out. When you're printing Ks, you can, and same with Ts, lowercase, you can do your downstroke, and you can have some fun with how low you do your side mark. Your placement can be, it can be really like big like this, or you can do just a little to make it a little more diverse, you know? If you're doing something like the word kick, you could have a bit of fun with like, keep everything the same size as those two marks on the K. And then only the backs of the Ks are big. See what I mean? All right, L's. L's are everyone's favorite letter. It's the loop. I don't love uppercase L's, although it's very flourishy. Everybody learned how to do this L when they were little. Just have some fun on the variation between thick and thin, and try to keep these loops like they don't have to be a similar size, but it does look a little better. Or deliberately kind of like make the loops minimal. So you're kind of going up, down, down. The lowercase looped L is everyone's favorite. Everyone, if you want to practice a word that's fun to write, hello is great because you get to have fun on the H. It can go down the line. And then you've got double L's, which always look good. See how I'm stopping and taking my pen off the page, giving my hand a chance to rest, coming down. So M's, again, You can decide how you want your entry stroke to be. Do you want it to arc up this way or come in that way? You got 2 entry strokes there. It can kind of take the arc or just regular entry stroke. So if it's taking the arc, downstroke. Again, your upstroke should start from the bottom and depart from your downstroke. That's what's going to give your M that brush lettered look. If you were to do a downstroke and start the M way at the top, you're just going to get 2 humps, see? Like kindergarten writing. If you're wanting to brush letter it, you've got your in stroke and you're starting the second hump from the bottom with an up stroke. See what I mean? You're starting this one from the bottom. That's what's giving you that diversity between the strokes, starting it at the bottom. And when you're doing the lowercase versions, I'm taking my hand off in between each one. Entry stroke, down, down, starting from the bottom. Can have a bit of fun with how even the humps are once you kind of, get to making it your own style. You could go like down, up, down for an M. Like if you were writing mum. All right. N, easier than M, same idea. O, we've done a bit with O's already because we've been practicing O's when we're doing C's and B's, and it's always those half circles where the downstroke gets thickened. So just decide how you want to start it. Do you want there to be an entry stroke up here at the top when you come down? Do you want to take the arc, go down? Or just keep it straight. Remember, you're going down, just like with our circles, lightening up, going past where you started, and finishing in the thick. So you have that nice finish. You're not having a stop anywhere. For the lowercase, you want an entry stroke, thicken it up, come around, exit stroke. Okay, P's are fun. I love P's. Again, a capital P, it's all about how you're taking the entry stroke. If you're just doing a regular entry stroke, you're coming down. And you can start at the 3/4 mark to bring your P up, or you could start at the bottom and you could really exaggerate it. As long as you're getting some good discrepancy, so this is starting at the 3/4 mark. See what I mean? Kind of looks nice if you start at the bottom and really exaggerate it. Same with your lowercase ones. So if I'm writing a lowercase p where it's descending below the line, I'm entering in, I'm coming down thick, and I could just start right at the baseline here and just do the regular thickening and out. Or you could have a bit of fun with it. You can come down, start at the very bottom, and come over. You could, again, same idea, down and come around the back, come over. So there isn't one right of these. It's more a matter of getting a handle on, again, thickening the downstroke, lightening the upstroke, and knowing where to take your hand off the page. So if you're writing and you're feeling like I'm at the end of the stroke, time to rest. I'm in the middle place where I'm going to pick up a new time to rest. Q, very similar to P. Apart from the uppercase Q, I don't know anyone that likes writing an uppercase Q. I guess this one's my favorite, no flourish. Just kind of is like an O, comes down into the thick. See how I'm resting between quilt. Lowercase q's you can have some fun with. Again, decide how you want the bottom to go. Take a rest when you get to the top. Down. And come decide how you want to write that. But you can see me lifting my hand off between every stroke. Come down off the bottom. And then exit stroke. R. R is a big one, you guys. R, I find, is the one that's really going to set your letters apart. R is the one baseliner, the small letter that typically would ride the line like an A or a C or an E, that I think looks great when you take it up and make it big. So if we were to do something like, let's think of a word. Well, first let's do our R's and then we'll get to the words. So for a capital R, like we did with the K's, we want to make sure we're coming down and doing that exit stroke, not just making it go straight down. Give it that little exit stroke on the way out. The lowercase r is the one I'm talking about. You can have a lot of fun with. Look at all the different ones I've done here. So with the standard lowercase r, it's an entrance stroke. That loop thickens, and out. Okay? Up. If you were going to have a little extra fun with your R, like I've done here, is you could bring this loop, because you have got room for a flourish right here, you could bring that up to, you could ascend it. It sort of makes it a little unconventional. So what's a word that has R in the middle? Let's think. Actually got one? No. How about right? Let's just try right. So if I'm doing a W, just kind of going down, regular W, exit stroke, but now I'm going way up with my R. You could have a lot of fun with that flourish. What about, what's another? How about lettering? Okay, we're going to write the word lettering. So we've got our L comes up, E, taking a break. I've got two T's here, nothing very special. I'm not even looping them. Another E. And now everything's sort of the same size. And I'm going to come way up with that R. So the R and the flourish in the R is something you can have quite a bit of fun with. And instead of, like I've done here, instead of making it loop higher, you could just make the R itself come up. So I'd encourage you to try the R in a bunch of different ways, because R is the one baseline letter I think you can really kind of exaggerate. S. So a standard cursive S looks something like this, but you can have lots of fun with it. I prefer capital S's to look something like that. If I'm writing my sister's name, Sarah, this is how I'm always doing it. Just thickening that downstroke, coming around, finishing it off, and then having it join up with the A. And then she's got a great example of doing like a cool R. So have some fun with S's. Again, a standard cursive S. You can either start at the top and kind of come down with your exit stroke, or you can give it an entrance stroke, come down. You could also loop it if you wanted. T. So a standard cursive T. Again, you could make the top of the T like your entrance stroke. You could cross it instead of just having it meet like that at the top. Looks a little more informal. If you were writing thanks, you could even have the H kind of inside that too. This is a place where you can, T's are a place where you can decide how thick you want to make the cross, especially with lowercase letter T's. Again, play with where you put that crossbar. And then a cursive T, you can kind of come up and down. Now, you can decide, do I want to go up and nice and tight straight down, or do I want that line, do I want them to be kind of almost separate? Like that. If you're doing 2 T's in a row, sometimes you can exit stroke and use that. Whoops, sorry, you didn't see that. If you're doing 2 T's in a row, you can entrance stroke, T, exit stroke, T. U. At this point, you should be pretty comfortable with, because it's just a pretty basic entrance stroke, down and around, stop, bring it down, give your hand a chance to rest before you do that downstroke. Same with V, kind of an entrance stroke, down, thin on the way up, exit stroke. W is a little bit like R, where you can have a bit of fun with the lowercase w. Even with an uppercase, you can make it ascend the line for a little bit of extra interest. So if you were just writing, let's say, the word week, if you were journaling something like this, you had an entrance stroke, come down. Normally, you would just do one that was the same size, but you could have some fun with how big the second one was. And maybe it comes up a little skinnier, or it even starts kind of. But the standard W, and if you're just printing it, it's down thin, down thick, up thin. Someone said X in the comments. You're wondering, because is X 2 downstrokes? It is, but the second downstroke is going backwards. So this is a rule where, because it's not going forwards, the second downstroke comes down, and then because it goes this way, it's considered a side stroke, so it's thin. So entry stroke, exit stroke, and because it's going backwards, thin. You're not usually writing your upstroke from the, like, you're not usually writing X like that. We were sort of taught in school it goes down and then it goes down again, but because it's going backwards, you can make it thinner. And again, these aren't like, policeable rules. You can do what you like. So lowercase x is up, that hump comes down, exit stroke, and because we're going backwards, it's thin. So a printed X, thick downstroke, but because we're going backwards, it's thin. Y, also so fun, and so many Y's finish words. So Y and the flourish on that tail is something that you really are gonna practice. Practice Y's in all kinds of different ways, because it really will allow you to have some fun and really make them big. You can come down, obviously, and just make it normal like this. Entry stroke, down, hits the line, and then you stop. And then this is when you decide, am I going big? Am I going small? Is it tailing out? Is it going to be like, where is it going? As long as you're thick on the downstroke and you start to thin, you can't go wrong. Sometimes it's nice for your Y to go underneath your whole word and then back over. So if you were doing something like funny, let's do it like, all right, how am I going to do it? Look at the space that I've got here under the word. Can I fill it up? So I'd encourage you to have some fun with the Y. As long as you're going thick on the downstroke and starting to get thinner. Z, Z, it's tough. It's tough. The traditional capital Z looks terrible. The regular one looks weird, so you kind of put a line through it to fancy it up a little bit. Do your best with Z. We don't use it that often. So maybe that's why mine looks so bad, because I haven't practiced it that much, but I don't love Z. But it is a descender, and you can have some fun if you were, suddenly writing the word zinc or zoo or something for some reason. There you have it. All right, that's the alphabet. Let's go now to our groups. And if you're kind of getting bored of the alphabet, go to your groups and practice the ones that start with the ascenders, because they're the most fun. The ascenders and descenders are pretty fun. And that's what's really going to set your lettering apart, is if you take some liberties with the coming up and the going down. So the letters that are in the group of ascenders, B, D, H, K, L, T. Okay, so B, have fun with the D, H, K. Did I miss K? I might have. L, T. And you can do these in all kinds of different ways. So if you get good at doing those loops in different ways, once you have your words together, that's what's going to give them lots of movement and have it look pretty fancy. Same with the descenders. So I also want you to make a little page, descenders, with F, J, G, P, Q, Y, and Z, boo Z. But still, it's on there. Those are the descenders. And then the rest are all of those sort of line hugging letters. And if you want, you can put them in a group too. Where's my little page with all of them? I think I have them here somewhere. It's A, C, I, O, S, U, V, W, and X. Those are all the line huggers, so you can practice those ones too. Something I wanted to point out is that we used primarily this pen for practicing our letters. If you're finding it tough, or if your hand is cramping up, try using your bigger pen. I just did this in some bright colors. You want to try your hand at doing some of these letters with your big pen too. We do have some bright colors on the website, some packages of brighter colors. So if you're wanting to get some of those, you can look online. I'll put the link. But it's fun to have some different colors to be creating some different things. So on the back of your page, if you want to be trying some of those ascenders and descenders with your bigger pen, you can do that too. Like the B, the D, the L, H. You'll notice when I'm coming back down for my downstroke, how when I arc that downstroke, it just looks a little nicer than when it's big and tall. K. T's. So have some fun with that. Definitely, I want to see, if you haven't joined the Homemade with Jennifer Tryon Facebook group, please do it, because this is where you can post your works in progress. Now that we're doing some letters, let's see what you've done. Don't be shy. We all start. They all look a little wonky, a little, misshapen. We're aiming for consistent sizing, and we're aiming for hitting the baseline, the midline, or the top line. So we're not going over any of the lines. So those are things to aim for, similar sizing and hitting those lines. Okay, let's get to tonight's project, because I know you can stop and start this as you are doing it yourself. So I'm going to move on to the banner. And you've got a choice with your banner. It comes with a gold marker. And if you're not feeling, if you're not feeling super confident with your lettering yet, remember last week we did the faux calligraphy? I would suggest continuing to do faux calligraphy until you are feeling good about your actual letters. The other thing you can do is a bit of faux calligraphy even with your brush lettering. So this marker is not a brush marker, it's a gold marker, but it doesn't bend in the same way that the other markers do. You can get a little bit aside from it, you can get a little bit of variation, but not a lot, not big enough to fill this the way one of these markers would fill this. So you could use your black on here, or if you ended up with a set of brights from online, you could do that. Or if I'm doing Happy Easter, I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm still gonna do the letters as though it's brush lettered, and then I'll go ahead and fill in that downstroke. So I'm gonna do Happy Easter. And what do we think? Should we capitalize the H and the E? Probably. All right, let's capitalize it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go entry stroke, H. Try to fill it as much as possible. Let's have a bit of fun. Now, I need to thicken down, down. And I'm not worried if it's going off, it's fine. And we can color it in. Okay, H, cute. Next up is A. So I'm going to do a lowercase a. Thicken that downstroke. Thicken that downstroke. All right, we got two P's coming up and try to make them match. I'm going to arc that edge, so down, and have it come up from the bottom. So I'm going to thicken this downstroke. You can see I'm using long strokes to color that in, not like tick, 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 tick. It's just smoother that way. Thicken that downstroke. These are the kinds of things when you can turn your own letters into something that looks like fonts. So cool. Because this is the kind of thing you'd be like, oh, I'd normally spend money on like a banner like this. It looked so cute. But you can literally do it out of anything. It's just your writing. All right, we got HA. I'm just careful not to smear these while they dry. All right, we got Y, so we can have a little fun with the Y. This is a downstroke, and this is a downstroke. But remember, it thins out, so we don't go down all the way, because remember, around the 3/4 mark, it thins out as you make that transition. So remember that when you're coloring things in too. Cute. All right. Uppercase E. Now I'm not going to make it loopy because uppercase E's that are looped I find just don't look that great. So I'm gonna arch the back and kind of go around like this. And thicken this downstroke. E. So notice how my A is not a full circle here. I kind of come up on a little bit of a slant. That's because I've developed that as my style of doing A's. It's not traditional where it's like a full circle, but I like it because you see lots of variation then when you put the back side on. So that's just a little something that you can adopt as your own too, if you like that look. And you don't have to do Happy Easter if you don't celebrate Easter. No big deal. You can make this welcome home, happy birthday, whatever. S. Just thicken where it needs to thicken. T. Now I'm not just doing a cross, I'm gonna come up, come down, and thicken the downstroke. Because I think leaving the entry stroke looks kind of cool. I definitely want you to take a picture of whatever banner you use, especially if you put it up. I want to see it. You can post it in the group. All right, E, entry stroke. Again, not super round on the back. My exit stroke kind of bends a little because over time I've developed a bit of a style. I like that style. E, and now we can have some fun with the R. Up, over, downstroke. So we could have put a loop here too if you'd rather. So I've got 3 banners left. So I could save these. I could put a little like bunny, I could put a carrot, I could put an exclamation point, or I could just save these for something else because I've got lots of letters here. Maybe I can make another word. So I'll leave these blank for now, just in case. The other thing that's kind of good, if I messed one up, I'd have a spare. In the kit comes some string. So I'm going to just unravel it and get this together. Sometimes it's nice to also put a blank in between or at the beginning and end of what you're doing. So I'm going to just unravel this entire thing here. Just throw it on the floor. That's probably best. How come when I drop things, they just unravel? But when I need them to unravel, I have to like literally do every single one. All right, there we go. So I'm going to put one blank at the end. So I'm going to start with the ending. And I will come in from the back. How do I want to do this? Back or front? Might be better to thread this. If you have like a big embroidery needle, you could thread it. All right, making sure you've got some string. All right, now I'm pulling this all the way through so that I can move my letters along, but I don't want to be having to pull that much through every single time. So I'm going to just start with, just wet the end so it's nice and stiff. That's what she said. All right, sorry. Okay, blank at the end. R, now I got to spell this backwards. Oh gosh. Going in. So my string is at the back. And then I'll just keep moving it as I go. Please don't let me spell this wrong backwards. I should probably write it on the piece of paper first, and then I can know what's coming next. I know it seems like it should be obvious, but sometimes when you do these things, at least for me, I'm like, oh, great. And then I got to take it all off. All right, shoving them down as I go. T, going in the front. We have some extras of these banners. So if you didn't get one in your kit, but you'd like to make one, they're not very expensive. And I'm sure you've got a marker at home you could use. Well, actually, it comes with a gold marker. Or you could add on a black marker, a brush pen if you wanted. Add a couple. We have lots of, not lots, we've got some leftover items. So if you wanted an extra one of these for a couple of occasions, you can go online. We'll put a link up. We've got a few left. That way, if you wanted to make a few of these, or if you wanted to give it as a project, or if you had some girlfriends over and you wanted everyone to do one, that'd be fun. You can practice your lettering. You could be giving everyone just like a little lesson on how to thicken their downstrokes, because this is just like faux calligraphy, right? You could be teaching them how to thicken their downstrokes while you make this cute little project. Maybe what I'll do is hang this up in the shop until the day before Easter and then bring it home. Since we've got some cute Easter fabrics down there, it's all on sale. It can be part of the little display. All right, you need the capital E. And then that other blank flag can kind of act as a spacer in the middle, rather than things kind of shuttling together. Whoops, I got to put that, I got to start at the, I got to start behind, like at the front and go behind. So the string, the long part of the string is behind. There you go. You know, sometimes when you do stuff like this, you really surprise yourself. You're like, dang, that's good. It's okay to not be humble. Sometimes you've got to be proud of yourself. And it's way easier when you don't have to like also cut out the cardboard and match everything up. You can just do the lettering part. That's fun. All right, blank, 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 blank. How's everyone doing out there? Leave me a comment with how the lettering is going. I'd love to hear how the practicing is going. Are you doing some letters as we're going here tonight? Yeah, that's working. Okay, and now we have Y, E-A-S-T-E-R. Okay, good. There we go. I'm just looking how many letters it comes with. I think someone was asking. It's 17 pieces, so 15, I believe it's 15 letters, because then you get the string and the pen, which are also pieces. So if you needed another kit because you needed more letters, grab one, or you can kind of decide what you're making based on knowing that you get 15 of these little flags. Okay. So X's on the cameras. Maybe we'll try zooming out. I don't know. Maybe that's as wide as it can go up top. We can try to get as much of the letter in as the word in as possible. Almost there. Whoops, this goes in the front. It's like I'm sewing. We always find a way to incorporate sewing. Whoops, look at this. I forgot to do the other side of the P. Whoops. Good thing I noticed that. That would have been annoying. And look, it doesn't even look like I wrote it, right? It looks like it's like printed. You can be doing this too. Pretty easy. Just thicken your downstrokes. You guys know the secret. All right, H, and then I'll put the other blank at the beginning. And not every square has to be decorated. Sometimes less is more. Just let the happy Easter in the letters stand out. And blank, blank, blank. Where's the other blanks? Is there only 2 blanks? Oh, no, there it is. Now, you'll need probably someone to help you get this up, and sometimes you just need an extra pair of hands, right? Okay. I'll just slide it along for you to see. There. Looks good. Okay, I'll just have to tie it at the end so they don't all slide. Measure off my string, and then we'll have a cute little Easter banner. Easy. Under 15 minutes. I like those kinds of projects. All right, that's it for tonight. I want you to be practicing your letters, those entry strokes. Find a way to flourish up any of those ascenders. Go back and practice each letter, but then put them into groups. The ascenders, the descenders, and the letters that ride the line. That way it's not so, just as so cumbersome, and you're doing the same sort of muscle memory movement when you group them like that. So that's how I'd suggest practicing at first, is in those ascender, descender, and the letters that ride the line. And then have some fun making your banner. Remember, faux calligraphy, just thicken those downstrokes. hides a myriad of sins. So yeah, even chicken scratch can be thickened on the downstroke and look good. Thanks so much for tuning into class 2. We will see you next week.